All right, folks, welcome in to our special Fight Freaks Unite recap of the Friday night Most Valuable Promotions Trilogy fight won by Katie Taylor over Amanda Serrano. I am merely the somewhat capable host, TJ Rives. He is our insider. Hello to Dan Rafael from the Fight Freaks Unite Substack and newsletter. That would be 3 for 3 for Katie Taylor as she gets the majority decision win over Amanda Serrano. We're here to recap that mainly, talk a little bit about the fight tonight and much more. All right, Big Dan, welcome in. A lot of people are going to join us along the way here in the first few minutes on YouTube as we do this exclusively here tonight. Let's begin as we always do. What are your thoughts? Close decision. Did you agree with Katie Taylor victorious for a third time, retaining this time the undisputed women's junior welterweight titles as she did at Madison Square Garden?
I did. I thought that it was a very, very close fight. If you followed along with my round by round tweeting about each round, I thought literally all 10 rounds were close. There was only maybe a couple of rounds where I thought were like clear, but even though they were clear, they weren't dominant. It was just that it was very obvious to me based on the slow pace that one of the women won and the other one didn't. But that was only maybe, I don't know, TJ, 2 or 3 rounds in the whole fight.
Yes.
But in the end, I had the fight 96-95 in favor of Katie Taylor. And the reason why I had it 96-95 instead of 96-94 or 95-95 was because round one, and I scored like 2 even rounds a year, if that. I mean, I like make a decision. You can make a decision when nothing happened.
That's
from the
right.
standpoint of landed punches. I don't know who had the edge. I heard after the round, after I put my score up, they said that in the first round, a total of 3 punches landed. I didn't see them. I don't think they were particularly hard. Maybe it was a jab. I don't know how that was. It was 3-0 or 2-1 or whatever, whoever was more than the other. But to me, round one is like judging school 101 of a 10-10 round. Why you would score a 10-10 round. So that's why I had it like I did. And then they were kind of back and forth. Serrano had some solid rounds relative in the middle of the fight. Katie closed it out nice because the rounds that were, to me anyway, where I thought she won, I won't say decisively, but where I didn't have a problem marking her down on my scorecard, certainly the 9th and the 10th rounds. And so she closed it out a little bit better. CompuBox we talked about, they landed apparently the exact same number of punches, although Katie threw fewer punches. But the point is, super close fight, and not to bury the lead, and not in any way disrespectful to either of these great championship level fighters. That was not a great fight at all. I mean, correct. The broadcasters, and I get it's their product, they're trying to make it sound good. They made it sound like it was like an all-time classic, and frankly, that was not. That was a paltry imitation of the first 2 fights. It wasn't even an imitation of the first 2 fights. And don't get me wrong, I don't expect them to go in there and absolutely destroy each other again, but that was not a good fight.
All right, yeah, it was not nearly as entertaining, not nearly as much volume of punches. Did I jinx it again? Because I said for 2 days in our preview on the podcast and on our Bet US show that we did on Friday that we're expecting another barn burner. We would be shocked if it's not a barn burner. So that leads me to my next question here. Clearly there was a tactical change by Amanda Serrano. She fought differently. She said after the fight, she fought, I'll paraphrase, at distance. She was not fighting as recklessly, kind of rock'em sock'em robots. Did that tactical change backfire since she did not get the decision here? Yeah. What do you think about the tactical change and how much did it cost her?
Well, she said exactly the point. She says, I tried to fight it out the first 2 fights. It didn't work. So we tried to change it up and fight a more intelligent and more tactical fight from a distance. And it was successful from the standpoint that it was another close fight. The 97-93 makes it look like it wasn't all that close, but it really was a close fight if you go round by round. And so if it didn't work for her to slug it out in the first 2 fights, and it didn't work for her to box at a distance, it just means that Katie, when you match them up style for style, that she's the better fighter, even though you could argue that she should have won at least one of the fights, maybe 2 of the fights, and you could argue maybe she won all 3 fights. But Katie Taylor, she also made the point that she wanted to box more intelligently in this fight also. And I also have to believe, maybe they won't say it, but in the back of their mind, they know that they put through each other through absolute fucking hell for 20 previous rounds. And at this stage of their careers, I'm not, this is not insulting, but I just think subconsciously, like, they must think to themselves, do I want to put myself through that again? They've already done it twice.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, twice against each other. That's not even to mention.
And whether
hold on. That's not even to mention all the other brutal fights they put each other through with other opponents.
I get you. But how much, the other point is, whether you wanted to or not, how much did the November fight again take out of both of them when Taylor is 39, Serrano is 36? They're not in their early 20s, they're mid 20s. I don't know if either of them is capable of fighting at the level and at the high volume and the brutality that we saw in their first two fights. Maybe it just took it out of them, whether they wanted it to be that way or not.
I don't know about that. I think they could if they had to, if they wanted to.
I don't know. Neither one of them looked particularly quick or sharp throughout the night. Clearly, Serrano fought more cautiously. There was not near the volume of punches in any round like the other rounds. I just wonder if we're nearing the end for both of them. And it took a ton out of them last November. Yeah.
Two things can be true at the same time. They are nearing the end. That's obvious. They'll admit that. But that doesn't mean they are not still capable of doing that. I think they fought purposely at a measured pace, not because they were unable to pull the trigger, because certainly on the few occasions where they did get into an exchange, they were both firing shots. The exchanges were very few and far between. And I thought actually that Serrano, she had much quicker hands in my mind than Katie. But the thing is, it was very similar to the other fights with less contact, is that Serrano, when she did come forward, Katie is so brilliant when she comes off the ropes and throws a counter shot that is gonna catch the judge's eyes, because they're easy to see those kind of punches. I actually thought when it was over, even though I had Katie winning, I thought because Amanda had thrown so many more punches, even though I didn't think she connected with, a lot more. And as it turned out, according to the stats anyway, they were even. Typically, if all things are equal, the person that's the heavier volume puncher is usually going to get the edge in the rounds. But in this particular case, she didn't. But, she's got nothing to be ashamed of, Serrano. I mean, she's a first ballot Hall of Famer. She's still got all the accolades and things she's accomplished. She's still the only female boxer to win world championships in 7 weight classes, and she's still the featherweight world champion. Just that sometimes, somebody has your number, and that's apparently that's the case with Katie Taylor. And I thought it was brilliant when, I think Ariel Helwani, who was doing the post-fight interviews, sort of jokingly asked about a fourth fight, because they had been saying all along they didn't want to have a fourth fight. And she's like, no, forget it. We're done. I don't blame her.
Well, if you're Katie Taylor, what more do you have to do? You've gotten your hand raised all 3 times. You've gotten paid humongously. So there you go on that. Again, we're live here on YouTube tonight in the Friday night aftermath of Katie Taylor once again winning by decision. And give her credit, coming all the way to the United States 3 times as an Irish fighter, and gets the decision in New York the first time, in Texas the second time, in New York again the third time. And the 2 judges that scored it for her essentially scored it 7-3 tonight. I thought she won the 10th and final round that either fighter had to win, but it turns out Katie Taylor didn't have to win the 10th round, because she was up comfortably on 2 of the cards by at least a couple of points. And so she put things away. Now, why don't we do this?
I just want to say one more thing about that.
As
far as coming over from the UK,
I
don't really, or from Ireland, that's not, to me, is not really relevant. I say that because both of them, between the Irish community and the Puerto Rican community, both had a massive support. And Katie also has fought in the United States several times in her career. She's fought in New York, several times. And on top of that, she spends the bulk of her time now when she's preparing.
I hear you on all of that. Did Amanda Serrano fight Katie Taylor in the UK or Ireland, any of the 3 fights? No, she did not.
If the money was there, she probably would.
We're not talking about what ifs. We're talking about what happened. Katie Taylor came to the United States and won 3 decisions. And I didn't agree with the second decision, but I give her credit for that, especially tonight when everything was set into motion back at the Garden, home away from home. For Serrano and Taylor.
I gotta say, it still boggles my mind that, and I go back to our Friday Bet US show earlier in the day, blew my mind that Katie Taylor was plus money on the fight.
Right.
I cashed that all day long.
Yes, you did. Good call by you. I thought Serrano would get the Trilogy fight, but it was Katie Taylor. Why don't we do this? Because he is there on scene covering things at Madison Square Garden. He's been doing a great job for the last 48 hours in New York. Ricky Carroll is our site editor and lead writer on BigFightWeekend.com, and he's going to hop in with us live right now on YouTube from the Garden, Dan Rafael, as we do this live here on the program. Hello, Ricky Carroll. Here tonight. Thank you for hanging with Dan and me. Hopefully you can hear us all right with the Wi-Fi. Are we thumbs up? Are we good with the Wi-Fi in the Garden?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you okay. You have the floor. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with the decision? Taylor gets the third win.
Yeah, I thought it was close. Exactly what Dan said. It really, out of the 3 fights, it definitely wasn't the best one. I had it a draw. I couldn't really split them, if I'm being honest, at the end. I think Taylor took the last round, and that was a draw for me then. I don't quite know where 97, 93 come from on 2 of the cards. But yeah, it wasn't a great fight. For me, the highlight was Ellie Scotney, I thought. I thought she stole the card, and I hope she gets the $250,000 as well. And as the bonus, I thought she was the best one on the card today. But yeah, not really much to say about the main event, if I'm being honest. Pleased for Katie. 3-0. I don't think that we need to see it again. Yeah, done. I feel like it's done now.
In the arena, it sounded a couple of times like there was some unrest. It didn't have quite the rock'em sock'em, lots of action. What was it like in the arena and in and around ringside in the Garden since you're there?
The build-up was very loud. A few minutes before everyone piled in about 15 minutes before the main event. And it was a really good atmosphere. And then after kind of round 2, it just died, really.
Yeah.
It just died, and there wasn't really much happening. A few flurries here and there, and people were getting excited. But exactly like Dan said, a lot of the punches from Serrano and for Taylor, a lot of them were missing as well. But it's so hard to score a fight in the stadium as well, because everyone screams every time someone throws a punch as well. So I have to kind of watch it back again to see who's actually landed and who's not landed.
I don't think you want to do that, Ricky. You don't even want to waste your time watching that fight.
You don't have to watch that one back. Right.
Yeah, no. I definitely don't want to watch that one back. I'm hoping tomorrow is going to be more exciting.
All right, and again, he's talking about the fight card in New York. That's Berlanga and Shiraz and Shakur Stevenson against William Zepeda that will also be in New York, and Ricky's going to be there for that. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked to Dan. Dan flat out says, obviously, the strategy backfired to fight conservatively for Serrano. How surprised were you that she fought more measured? How much did it backfire that she fought more measured instead of, especially in the last 2 or 3 rounds, letting it all hang out? What do you think about the tactical move by Serrano that didn't work? She didn't win.
They spoke a lot all week about the adjustments that they've made. If they were the intended adjustments, I think they've got it spectacularly wrong, to be honest. She should have flown at her from the first bell and made her feel uncomfortable. And she just let her dictate the pace a little bit too much. And I thought she had a lot more to give Serrano. I thought she'd win it today. I was backing her to win it, to be honest. And I just don't think she turned up at all. I think she made it a little bit easier than Katie. For Katie, sorry. I just don't think she done nowhere near enough, if I'm being honest. I don't think either of them were great, to be fair, but...
And again, Ricky's doing a great job, and he's got to go cover the post-fight press conference. Dan, I'm going to ask you this first, but I want Ricky's take also. What's Katie Taylor's place in history, Dan Rafael, with this win, adding to that career? What do you say, Dan, and then Ricky next?
I mean, she's going to go down as one of the great women's boxers of all time. She's not going to ever be viewed as like the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, but she's because some people say she's vulnerable. She gets hit a lot. Her defense isn't great. She's a tremendous fighter, though. She was an Olympic medal winner. She is the superstar and the beloved figure in her country, and she has done everything you can ask for as a professional boxer. She's a 2-division undisputed champion. She's fought everybody. When she finally did lose a fight that was super close, she went right back in the ring with Chantel Cameron, avenged that loss. She has been involved in at least 4 fights that I can think of that were fight of the year fights, which are both Serrano fights. The first 2 fights, and then the both 1 and 2 against Cameron. And there's other fights that she's been in that were fantastic also. And she's also, this is, it may sound, a lot of people will say this about different people. I must say, and I've met and talked to, interviewed, been around basically every single person of consequence in boxing for 25 years. If you said, Rafael, make your top 10 pound for pound nicest people you've ever met, she might be number one.
Interesting. On that, Ricky Carroll, same question live at Madison Square Garden. What's Katie Taylor's place in history off of 3 wins over Amanda Serrano now?
Oh, she's up the top. I think that's the best way I can put it. She's where she belongs. Yeah, for me, she's the greatest female fighter of all time. Certainly in my generation, anyway, from how far I can go back. So yeah, I'm really pleased for her. It wasn't a great fight, but yeah, I'm happy she got the win.
No doubt. Hey, before you go, because I know you're trying to get to the post-fight press conference, Rafael's been to Madison Square Garden so much, they know him, they hold the door open for him. I've only been there a few times, never for a fight. I believe this is first time ever in the Garden for you, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
What was it like to be at the Mecca tonight? Tell the fans.
I was a little bit starstruck. I've seen a lot of people that I normally only see on the TV. I saw Anthony Yard. It took me about 15 minutes at the ring press conference earlier today to realise that Anthony Yard was standing next to me for about 15 minutes. I just looked to my right and he was standing there waiting for the press conference. But I spoke to his trainer, Tunde. He's a really nice guy, actually. I spoke to him. He was really nice. I had a few minutes speaking to him. Yeah, it was crazy. I saw Bernard Hopkins as well. That was a little bit surreal, actually, as well. It's been a really good day, actually. I've had a lot of fun today.
All right, so
Ricky,
Ricky
I'll tell you one thing.
Write it up. Go ahead, Dan. Yeah, go ahead.
I covered my first fight at Madison Square Garden 25 years ago, and I remember more about that experience my first time being there than I could tell you about the fight I went to a few months ago, because it had made such an impression on me because it was such a big deal in my life. So you might have that same feeling 25 years from now.
Yeah, I think I will. No, I think you're right, Dan. I don't think I'm ever going to forget today, to be honest. It was a lot of fun. Even though the main event wasn't exactly what I wanted, it was still a really good card and a really good event. I'm happy I came.
And he's going to hang in there and keep writing this weekend on bigfightweekend.com, including for the Ring Magazine DAZN pay-per-view Saturday night in a different part of New York in Queens. All right, good luck with all of that. We appreciate you hanging with Dan and me tonight from the Garden. Thank you, Ricky Carroll. We'll let you run on. Excellent work. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Take care, Ricky.
There you go with him with us tonight. That is pretty cool that he got to be there at the Garden. We're going to get to some viewer comments.
TJ, let me just say one more thing.
Go ahead. Yes.
You never forget your first time, baby.
That is correct. And again, some of you are just joining us. I see the audience has grown. Katie Taylor has won the Trilogy fight tonight over Amanda Serrano on this Friday night. Recap for people that have joined us in the last 5 or 10 minutes. You agree with the decision? You believe this is just that Taylor has won all 3 fights now with Amanda Serrano. What about it, Dan?
I mean, I did have Katie winning all 3 fights. I mean, but again, they were all close. And if you tell me that you thought otherwise, I'm not going to fight you about that, because it's not. Again, for the 1 millionth time we've done this, we talk about range of acceptable scores. Now, you might dispute the 97 to 93, but I don't think you can dispute that it's not within the realm that Katie should have won tonight's fight, the same way that the other 2 fights were super close. And if you had said to me you thought that Amanda Serrano was worthy of winning any of the 3 fights, I wouldn't fight you about that. But there's 3 judges. They see what they see. In terms of this particular fight, like, I'm always confident when I see Weisfeld on the panel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to quarrel with Steve. To me, he's been the best judge in boxing for the last several years. He had it like 1 round different than I did. And I did not, like I said, I did not. What I had 96 to 95. It was a close fight. And what happens is, when you see a fight where there's so little action, like, it's literally 1 or 2 punches that swing around, as opposed to if they're battling tooth and nail and they're just bombing away. There's a lot to go on. Which the first 2 fights were. This fight was not. Interesting that the English referee judge, Mark Lyson, had the fight even. It was the neutral judge and Steve Weisfeld that had the fight 97 to 93. So that's interesting. I've always thought that the whole nationalist thing is slightly overrated. I think that most of these people that do these jobs, they're professionals and they don't let their nationality stand in the way.
All right, let's get to some comments. We'll also get to the undercard, and we'll get out of here in a few minutes. Man, good Lord, a lot of the Savages are with us tonight, and we appreciate that. Making comments. Let me go up here to the top. Edry, our buddy, is watching tonight, and he says that was complete overkill of fights. I was so disinterested by round 3. I think part of it is spoiled the right word. We got spoiled by how action-packed the 20 previous rounds were, that this was a different fight tonight. It's not my job to defend it. I'm just making the point. What about it, Dan, on it lacked the same as the first two fights?
I mean, of course, it wasn't as good. And the thing is about it, we've talked about many times of various trilogies. Oftentimes in a trilogy, there's one fight that turns out to kind of be the lesser of the 3. That's just,
Yep.
It's like the odds are that not all of them are going to be great. There's a few trilogies where every fight have been awesome. Morales against Barrera, although the second fight was not as good. Gaddy Ward, tremendous trilogy. Second fight was sort of again, it wasn't a bad fight, but comparing to the third and the first, of course it was not as good. The one trilogy that stands out to me where all 3 were phenomenal is Bo Holyfield. They were all great. Take a look at Canelo versus Golovkin. They had the closest you could get to this, because going into the third fight, it was 1-0-1, because the first fight was ridiculously ruled a draw nonetheless, and the third fight sucked. Kind of like this one. It was just it didn't have any real drama or action, and so they did the third fight, and it was sort of, they were at the, people had wanted it for a long time. It took a while to make it. They finally got it done, and it was a big disappointment. And that's going to happen. So people will always remember these 2 fighters. They'll remember the trilogy. They'll remember the first and second fight specifically. And when you ask them about the third fight, they'll be like, yeah, well, whatever.
Yep.
That was nothing much. But boy, those first 2 fights were spectacular. So it's hard. You can't get mad at them. I mean, they don't owe us their blood after what they did the first 20 rounds. I'll give them a pass, if you will. And here's the other factor, by the way. I'd be a little more bitter and pissed off if I spent like $75 on a pay-per-view, but I didn't spend other than whatever Netflix.
That's correct. The Netflix subscription.
I'm sure they get a big audience tonight, and they showcased women's boxing at its best. There were some good undercard fights, so
we'll get to that in a moment.
No arguments there.
Viewer comments and questions. Kyle says, "What do we think of the strategy coming out of Serrano's corner?" I didn't have a problem. I mean, they were telling her she's winning. They then told her in the 9th and 10th round, "You need these rounds," and it turned out to be correct. What do you think about the strategy?
I mean, the strategy was to box conservatively. I mean, we're not breaking new ground, because that was very obvious just by watching the fight. They didn't need to say that. It was very evident if you were paying attention.
All right, Jason, my buddy Jason Power says, totally agree with Dan about round 1. Very difficult to score. Not a lot of action in that. It did not end up deciding the fight. Fight was not decided by 1 point. 2 of the judges had it as a 4-point difference, as it turned out.
But I'm
close rounds to score. Yeah.
While we're doing this, I was texted the official scorecard.
Okay.
I want to see what I want. I don't want to mess up our shot here. So when we're done, I'm going to look and I'm going to see, and I will post the scorecard on my social media.
I mean, clearly 2 of the judges had her winning by 4 points, which means they had her up by 3 points going into the final round. And I don't see how anybody doesn't score the 10th round for Taylor. So,
right. And I suspect, based on the way that the 97-93 scorecards were, I would imagine they probably scored, at least a couple judges scored the fight in round 1 for Taylor, even though nothing happened at all. I mean, nothing. You know what? I'm looking at the CompuBox. In the first round, Taylor 1 of 17, Serrano 2 of 28.
There was not a lot
scored
there.
An even round.
There was not a lot there. Dylan says, bring on Taylor, Chantel, Cameron 3. Cameron 1 on the undercard. Do you believe Katie Taylor will fight on? And if she does, is Cameron the logical next opponent in a trilogy for that? What do you think?
Well, I do believe Katie will fight again. She really didn't take any damage tonight relative to other fights. So I think she'll probably fight again. She can still make a lot of money. There are still great fights out there for her if she is into it. But I do think she'll fight. I'm not going to say she's fighting, another 5 or 10 times, but I think she's got another couple fights left in her. And if she decides to fight Cameron in the third fight, I wouldn't be opposed to that. She could do another big event in Ireland. And, Cameron did win in a pretty one-sided fashion on this undercard. She is for what it's worth. Not that Katie's going to be pressured based on sanctioning bodies as a mandatory. She doesn't need that at this point, but it just in terms of keeping things tidy, if you will, as the interim champion, Cameron is going to be in line to get them to be ordered as a mandatory. So that there's a reason for it in that sense. They are 1-1. This was not a case where coming into this fight, Katie was 2-0. She is 1-1 against Chantel Cameron, and they were both fight of the year type fights. I had them as fight of the year, at least one of the fights of the year when I was doing my women's fight of the year a couple years ago. But there's other fighters that she could also elect to fight. First of all, anybody that's boxing as a female fighter, anywhere from like say 130 to 140, is prime to fight her with no problem. So she could go and fight Cameron, absolutely. Maybe she wants to fight Alicia Baumgartner, who is the 130-pound undisputed that won in the co-feature. There's other fighters in and around those weight classes as well. I mean, she if she wanted to go up and try to win a welterweight title, there's certainly talented fighters up there. If she wanted to try to fight like a Michaela Mayer, for example, I'm only making the point that anybody that Katie wants to fight, that person's going to be interested, because there's nobody in boxing is a female fighter that brings more money to the table than Katie. Whatever you think, if you don't think she's pound for pound, if you don't think she's number one at this, that, whatever, one thing she is definitely number one. She generates the most do-re-mi.
Yep. And let's see. I mean, she's 39. She's made a ton of money. She's arguably the greatest female fighter ever. You can make that argument.
I'm not ready to make that anointment.
I don't know who you would put in front of her. We could go for 5 or 10 minutes, but it's tough to argue in the modern that she's not, with the wins that she has in the 2 divisions and undisputed and beating Serrano 3 times. Who's one of the great fighters.
I mean, she hasn't had, unfortunately, the caliber of competition to bring out the best in her, but you can make a very strong argument for Claressa Shields. She's done it in multiple divisions also. She's won titles in more divisions. She's still undefeated. She lost one fight in her whole life ever as an amateur, which was avenged against Savannah Marshall, and she continues to march along. But the difference, though, is that, and this is not she can't help it, she fights in weight classes at a heavier weight that doesn't have the population of quality opponents that they are in, say, the lightweights and slightly above where Katie has been for the last several years. But we're picking hairs there. They're both obviously great fighters. All of them, Katie, Serrano, Claressa,
Shields.
They're all going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Sinisa Estrada, who was on the call doing the Netflix broadcast, she'll be in the Hall of Fame someday. A lot of these women that are at the top these days are on their way to Hall of Fame. And one thing, though, about Katie, whether you think, like I said, if she's number one or not, she made the most money.
Big time. Commander Vander, real quick on the comments while we're here, said felt like they were both worried about cuts. Serrano didn't want to get cut. I mean, you could still see under that right eyebrow where she had been cut back in November and where it had been obviously surgically repaired in the fight. He continues, Katie didn't want to get accused of leading with her head. By the way, they smacked heads at the beginning of the 5th round with Taylor coming right in, and referee Harvey Dock didn't do anything about it. Then late in the 5th round, it happened again with a few seconds left. He didn't do anything about it again.
There was really nothing to do because to me anyway, very, very clear. There was no intent on either of them.
Right, but I mean, there was no warning. There was no nothing. So it went on, and it did not cut Serrano. It did not make a difference.
And the headbutts are going to happen. I mean, especially because Katie is an orthodox fighter and Serrano was a southpaw. So the fact that they only had those 2 minor clashes was actually kind of amazing to me, especially given the headbutting that was going on in the first couple of fights.
Bill says Taylor boxed circles around Serrano. Serrano should retire. I don't know that Serrano's going to retire, but you can't argue with the fact the results are the results. She's beaten her all 3 times. And I thought this was the clearest. If you're gonna say she won, this was the clearest of the 3 wins tonight, especially the last couple of rounds of the fight. Serrano didn't step on the gas, couldn't step on the gas. That's fair on that. JJ.
But think about what you're saying, though, TJ. You're saying a fight where, yes, I know 2 judges had it 97-93, but 1 judge had it even. Not that my score counts. I had it at 1 point. I mean, that's as close as you can get without a draw, obviously. So it was still a super close fight.
JJ says Taylor way too good, even at 39. And it's tough to argue with that because she got her hand raised for a 3rd time. Anybody else? The Blunt Truth. We love the Savages with their name. Says super disappointed in the whole card. I don't know if the whole card was bad, but definitely a bad main event. Called that a draw, but not mad that the champ kept her belts. We'll talk about the whole card in a moment with the rest. I'm looking to see if there's anything else. He says, let's see, wait a minute. This is Sid says, love your show, but don't do women's boxing. Catch you next time. Well, catch us tomorrow night. We will be here on Saturday
Why
night.
wouldn't we do women's boxing? That's a dumb thing to say.
And especially
they just put on the biggest women's card in the history of the sport.
That's correct.
And it did a lot of business and a lot of people.
And the Trilogy.
Of course, we're going to talk about it.
The Trilogy.
That's what we do, TJ. We talk about boxing.
That's what we do here on YouTube.
Whoever said that can go fuck themselves. How about that?
There, by the way, if you need the name. Hit the like button, by the way. Make sure you're subscribed. That's going to help us out. Keep hitting subscribe. Hit the like button, etc. Other than that, who is this? I'm looking for the name. This is Hot Rod Kore Me Mac DJ, whatever that is. He says, do you think Serrano can accept Katie Taylor is just better than her? Well, at this point, tough to argue. She got the decision all 3 times, right?
Not sure what the choice is. I mean,
you may not want to accept it. It was tough to watch when they made the announcement and Serrano's there in New York and had tried to win for the 3rd time and she didn't win. She was almost in tears immediately of, my God, I fought again for 10 more rounds and she beat me again, 3 for 3. So welcome to sports and winners and losers at the end of all of this. All right. Let's get back to it. Alicia Baumgardner did win in the co-feature. She was impressive in her undisputed title win. That headlined the undercard. Your thoughts on her win and the rest of the undercard real quick before we get out of here.
Well, my first thought was that I would not use the word impressive as you did in that victory because Jennifer Miranda, who she fought, came in with no credentials and a nice record, but Baumgardner was a tremendous favorite in that fight. And even though the scores were 98-92 twice and 97-93. If you watch the fight, Miranda pushed her hard in that fight. That was, I thought, a much closer fight. That's just me. And it was a pretty good fight. But Baumgardner, in my mind, was like, and she even said in her post-fight interview, she didn't give herself a top grade. She's like, I forget. She said, I gave myself a B.
She said B plus. Right.
She was not at her best that night. She won. That's not the issue, but it was not overly impressive. I agree with what she said about herself. She can be better than that. I've seen her better than that.
All right. The Chantel Cameron won on the undercard. Shadicia Green also the win over Savannah Marshall. Any other thoughts? Go ahead.
Well, let's talk about that for just a minute. So Green and Marshall, that to me was probably the best fight of the undercard fights in terms of the action and how close it was. They were back and forth. Again, that was another close. It was another close fight. They scored a split decision. I'm looking at the scores here. Green got it 96-93, 95-94, including having been docked 1 point for holding. And then one judge had it 96-93 for Savannah Marshall. I saw some bitterness and complaining as usual online when those scores were announced, but that was another fight where there was a lot of close rounds. And here's the thing. I think maybe one of the reasons we see some of these closer rounds in female boxing is because the rounds are 2 minutes. You have less of a body of work to judge the fight on. Once you get to that 3rd minute in men's boxing, that can obviously separate, there's a lot more that can go on. So when you only have the 2 minutes to work with, it stands to reason they're going to be fresher. That's going to be maybe more competitive. It's when you get tired at the end of a round, who's got a little bit more in the gas tank in that round. And so they produce close fights oftentimes if the talent level is somewhat equal. But Green was very emotional after the fight. She's been at this a long time. This was her crowning moment. And, it was a good fight. And a Marshall, very disappointed. Now she just got the 2 losses, one to Green and one to in the pro rematch against Claressa. She is, Savannah, the only woman to ever defeat Claressa Shields, either as a professional or as an amateur. But for Green, it's a huge win. She's now the unified champion at super middleweight, got 2 of the titles. And in terms of the other bouts, you got Ellie Scottney, who Ricky mentioned. She defeated by unanimous decision Yamelith Mercado. That was a totally one-sided fight. She won a shutout on one scorecard. It was like 8-2 on the other scorecards. And she was able to retain her 2 titles and unify a 3rd title. So puts her sort of at the top of the sport in terms of the 122-pound weight class. And the other title fight on the card, this was an absolute beatdown. Chernika Johnson, who's from Australia, fought Sharetta Metcalf, stopped her. She was just laying a beating on her. There was a conversation in the corner after round number 7, and the referee, the bell rang for the beginning of the 8th round, but he didn't let her come out for the 8th round. He just waved it off, and she just took a wicked beatdown in that fight.
And we see some of the other commenters getting in here with their thoughts on the undercard. And Chantel Cameron obviously won. Is that the next opponent for Katie Taylor? We've been talking about that live. Listen, we're almost done. Any final thoughts here? Anything else that we haven't covered on this Friday night? Again, we'll be back on Saturday night after the Ring Magazine DAZN pay-per-view. Shiraz, Berlanga Shiraz in the main event. Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda, lightweight world title fight in the co-feature will be live after that again tomorrow night right here on this YouTube channel. Any other thoughts on tonight and the all-ladies show at the Garden?
I thought overall it was generally a pretty good show. I like we don't have to keep beating the dead horse. The main event did not live up to the hype and the expectations after the two spectacular first two fights. But I find Serrano and Taylor to be very likable people, very likable fighters for different reasons. They've got totally different kind of personalities, but they were sort of made for each other. And unfortunately for Serrano, she'll go down as a fighter that we all remember, but they'll always be like, yeah, but she lost 3 times to Katie Taylor, which is unfortunate. And in terms of Katie, it just, whether we discuss whether she fights on or not, who knows, but there's nothing she can do, I don't think, that can bring her higher than she is now as having done everything that she has done and to get this third win. I mean, yeah, she could still fight and make more money and win other titles perhaps, but she has to figure out probably what's the reason I want to keep doing it.
All good stuff. Again, the night belongs ultimately to Katie Taylor. As somebody just pointed out in the comments, that Serrano landed close to 400 punches, close to 400 of them in the second fight. Tonight, the two fighters combined, and I know you got the CompuBox in front of you, for I think 140 total land punches between both of them in the fight. So it was not the same fight, not near the same fight.
So just to give you the stats here, it was Taylor landing 70 of 231 and Serrano landing 70 of 382. So she threw many more punches than Katie, but if you go back and watch some of those rounds, there are literally times where she throws a big punch and it's not even close. Like it's a wide, and they're very clear to see, center of the ring. She launches the shot and she doesn't come within 6 inches of hitting Katie Taylor. So yes, she was throwing far more punches, but with very little effect.
Yep. And in the end, Katie Taylor gets the win. All right, good stuff tonight. We want them to engage with your Substack. You're going to be writing up the whole undercard and putting that out. Subscribe.
I'll be writing
Substack.
the main event with a little bit on the undercard.
I got you. Subscribe, be on the newsletter, and then you and I will reload whatever happens. Stay in New York here. We're going to stay in the New York theme. Queens, the U.S. Tennis Center, the Louis Armstrong Stadium, where they've never had a world title fight or a pay-per-view card like this.
Never had any fight.
How about that? We're going to have a recap of all of that late night, Saturday night into Sunday morning. We'll recap exclusively on this YouTube
Just a
channel.
note to the people, it's not going to be that late because the show starts at 5 in the afternoon for the preliminaries, main card at 6. So it ain't going to be over at like midnight. It'll
Let's
be over
hope from your lips to our viewing and our time schedules, but we'll be on this YouTube channel after it's done. I say again, help us out by hitting subscribe, by hitting the bell for notifications for when we come on live like this. Hit the like button on this video, comment on this video down below. That helps us in the algorithms, etc. You and I are putting in a lot of work here for the YouTube content. Your conversation with Manny Pacquiao is in the video section. Pac-Man fighting next weekend. You'll be out in Vegas. They can see that on this YouTube channel. We're doing this exclusively on YouTube, including Saturday night. As you watch us here, even if you're watching us on Saturday. Saturday night, we're back live after Berlanga Shiraz, Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda. Anything else in closing, Dan Rafael, or are we good?
I think we've said it all, my friend.
We have. Thank you, Big Dan. Thank you to Ricky Carroll of Big Fight Weekend, the lead writer. He's writing on the Serrano, the Taylor win over Serrano for the third straight time. Check him out there. I'm merely TJ Rives. Thank you for watching us here on YouTube on the Big Fight Weekend YouTube channel and the Fight Freaks Unite recap show here on this Friday night. Good night.